Yo, what's up? This episode is with Khalil Rafati, author of the book I Forgot to Die and author of the book Remembering to Live. This guy spent years living on Skid Row, addicted to shooting up speedballs every half hour. That's heroin and cocaine in a spoon, into a syringe, into your arm. This guy has chased the dragon of darkness. He calls heroin the Lord of Darkness that destroyed his soul. He has an incredibly dark and challenging story from the time he was born, practically, of living in a confusing, chaotic, just shit show of a starting period of life. Getting hooked on substances as a means of trying to find some relief, and then taking the thing straight down into hell for decades. He turned his life around. He's opened up rehab facilities on the West Coast and also owns Sun Life Organics, a Whole Foods, healthy, plant-based, organic, GMO-free, salt-free, no pepper. I mean, it's everything. It's the healthiest you can ever get. Smoothie store. And this conversation is awesome. Thanks for hopping on to Let's Keep Talking. Thanks for listening. If you haven't before, please rate the show. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Let's hop into today's episode. Before we get into the Khalil that people see and meet today, I want to talk about the past, man. I want to get into the past, brother. Are you down to hop into some of that today?
Sure. Yeah, why not?
All right. Cool. Dude, so look, I got to tell you something really cool. I've read this book, I Forgot to Die. I've read it probably maybe 8 times in my life. Let's see, about 8 years ago, I think. Maybe 6 or 8.
Yeah.
I was in San Diego, somewhere in California, on a business trip, and I went into this smoothie bar to get a smoothie on my way out of town. And as I'm just waiting for a smoothie, I look on the shelf and I see this picture.
Whoa.
And I just kind of look at it, and I'm just kind of flipping through, and I said, "What's this?" to the guy behind the counter. And he said, "Oh, that's the owner." And I was like, "This guy's the owner?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Well, dude, I mean, how much is this book?" And he said, if you were drawn to it, maybe it's for you. You can have it. And so I read this book. I read the whole thing within the next 24 hours. And now I just got your book, Remembering to Live. I'm probably halfway through that.
Okay.
It's a cool finisher. It's a cool continuation. You
Yeah.
know, this has been a resource for me in my own life, just looking through it, and just out of sheer interest and curiosity and just the thrill of just how dark and deep this story goes is one of the reasons I returned to it. And now to connect with you today is really awesome. To read the book you've written now, Remembering to Live, is just such a cool transformation. But I don't want to get to all the beautiful stuff yet. I want to go back to this stuff, man. Let's talk about, for people who are just tuning in to this episode, just watching this conversation with you, let's talk about where you came from, man. There's a lot of beautiful stuff to where you are now, but let's talk about the past. You have a rough past, my brother, and such interesting stories.
Yeah. My childhood was really rough, and my parents didn't know how to be parents. My parents were immigrants from different countries and spoke different languages and had different religions, and they met up at university in rural Ohio. And my mom thought she could change my dad. My dad, as you know from the book, was a very violent, very angry man. I don't know what marriage that was for him, probably number 4, number 5. I honestly have no idea. I got half brothers and half sisters all over the world. Jordan, Ramallah in Palestine, unfortunately, right now. Yeah. Canada, Louisiana, and I don't know. I don't know where else, but my dad got around. My mom was a sad and broken, beautiful woman. My father was an angry and beautiful man, and they had me. I'm the only sibling out of that marriage. And it was really rough. There was a lot of neglect and a lot of abuse, a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of violence. And yeah, it was tough being a kid in Ohio with a weird name, with weird parents, and not being able to function normally at school, not being good at sports, not like, it seemed like everybody had something, like somebody one kid was good at instruments and another kid was good at school and another kid was great at baseball and another kid was good at football. And I wasn't good at anything.
Yeah.
And I definitely tried different sports. And I have no eye hand coordination, which is really frustrating. And people like think I'm joking when I say that. And I'm like, no, like if we're at a ping pong table, I'll be like, watch. And like, I go to swing here and like the ball's over here. Like, it's really weird.
Yeah.
I have amazing body coordination. The first time I tried surfing, I literally stood up the first time. Now, I sucked because surfing is a very difficult skill to develop, but I stood up and I rode a wave the first time, and then I never got into it just because I didn't enjoy the culture of it and how weird it was,
Yeah.
territorial it was. But at 49
Yeah.
years old, at 49 years old, somebody bet me $10,000 in cash on a free roll that I couldn't get barreled at my friend's wave pool, and it was a
What do you mean barreled? What does that mean? Barreled.
barreled is when you go inside the barrel of a wave and the wave comes
Okay.
over you and then you come out of the wave. It's called
Gotcha.
getting
Okay.
tubed, getting barreled, getting shacked. And it was a nasty bet because the person knew I couldn't do it. And they also sort of one of those people that enjoys watching people in pain and watching someone suffer. And
Yeah.
he had
Like trainers here at my gym.
yes, and he
Yeah.
had seen me. He saw me try to ride the wave at that wave pool multiple times, and I just fell. And I fell. It's a very powerful 6-foot wave that comes very
Yeah.
quickly. But he didn't know me as well as he thought he knew me, because I said, "You mean if I don't get barreled, I don't owe you shit. But if I get barreled, you're going to give me $10,000 in cash." And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Let's shake on it." And I went to work. And I fell more times than I'd care to admit. But by the following morning at 10 a.m., I did what many, many surfers will spend their entire lives surfing and not do, which is I got barreled. And I came out of that wave and I threw my arms up in the air. And yet again, I proved to myself that the impossible is most of the time just the untried.
That is something that you have recovered in your later years in life into adulthood, and throughout your childhood, that awareness wasn't there. There was suffering and darkness. One of the things that kind of popped up to me as I was just glancing back through some of the beginning chapter of your book this morning is how substances really were the only thing that was able to regulate, give relief to this pain of the, in your own words, like some
Incomprehensible
incomprehensible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there were other, I mean, look, I shoplifted, that brought some relief. I vandalized, that brought some relief. I, as a kid, just masturbated chronically because that brought some relief. There were other things that I was trying to use to not feel the way that I was feeling. I walked around feeling like my skin was on fire. I walked around, I think mostly because of the sexual abuse, I always felt dirty. I always felt dirty.
Yeah.
I always felt like something was wrong with me and I was dirty. I don't know if you remember from the book when I stayed the night at Pete Handwerk's house in Ottawa Hills, and he had that perfect family with the sisters and the mom and the dad and the dog and the cat. And
you guys like all were laying in bed together or something like that,
they
in one
were,
big happy family.
They were, and I got up to pee, and the mom called me in, and I was like, "Fuck! Like, what do I do?" And I went over there, just dirty and like mouth filthy from smoking and drinking, and like just dirty. I felt dirty, and I go around the corner, and there they are. They're all in bed. They're all in like matching J. Crew or LL Bean pajamas, and they've got the golden retriever and they got the cat, and they're just like loving one another. And I got a lump in my throat, like my heart just broke because I thought to myself, wait, is this what childhood is supposed to look like? Like that love, like I could feel it on me, even though it wasn't meant for me, but like I could feel the energy of that love. And they invited me in and come sit down. And, we want to hear all about you. And yeah, it was,
That that pain, man, I can hear it in your words in the book when you write about it. The just the being alone and staring at this thing that you're in called life
yeah,
that just keeps fucking you, and I mean, and just disregarding you and crushing you, whether it's through the abuse you describe in the book, the lack of any support at home with family, being kicked out of the house. You went to go with your dad and he locked the doors in the house,
yeah,
and you went to live at work for a period of time. And
yeah.
that's 14-ish years old, essentially.
It started
Your
at
parents say
12.
it's not
It
happening.
started at 12 and it continued on until I was trying to, at 19 years old, I made one desperate attempt to finish high school and it didn't end up panning out. But yeah, I just got tossed back and forth. But luckily, this family took me in, and I was able to kind of hide my drinking and using. But once I went out on my own, the drinking and using got worse and worse. And the substances were the only thing that brought me lasting relief. So acting out, violence, shoplifting,
Yeah.
all that like brought some relief and some sense of an identity. But the substances, they,
The drugs were the cheat code, man.
yeah, the drugs felt good. The drugs felt good. The booze felt pretty good, but the drugs were much faster, and I didn't look all puffy and gross, and I didn't feel hungover the next day. And I became
Yeah.
quite the little chemist with all the different concoctions. And man, I had a long honeymoon period and a lot of relief from those drugs. But drugs are kind of like hanging out with terrorists or hijackers. Like you're cruising and everything's cool and you feel like you're cool and you're hanging out with the cool people quotation marks. And then one day, man, they just stand up with machine guns and they're like, okay, motherfucker, we're hijacking you. And that was it. And I had built up like a tissue dependency on the heroin and on the cocaine and
When did you start shooting heroin? I know you started
late,
with initially
late.
snorting
That didn't come till later. That was like late 20s. I was smoking it before that,
Yeah.
and I was doing mostly the fun drugs, the ecstasy, the GHB, the ketamine, acid,
Yeah.
mushrooms. But once the Dark Lord entered my realm, the heroin,
Heroin.
and once
The Dark Lord. That's a
Dark
good one.
Lord, and once that evil white ghost cocaine came into my world, all bets were off. Those substances, man, they grabbed onto my soul without my consent, and they would not let go.
You say that a couple times in the book about the drugs intention, the drugs full dark capacity, and they had one intention, and that was to rob you of your soul without your consent.
Yes.
Can you describe that relationship with it, of how you thought you could negotiate a little bit, and it just sent you into the pit of
Well,
just
it lies to you.
boundaryless
It
suffering?
lies to you. I mean, listen, when I first started doing cocaine on a regular basis, I got fucking ripped. I looked jacked because
Yeah.
I'm have this like little half Middle Eastern, half Polish body. It's misshapen if you really look at it. Torso's a little too long, and the legs are too short. My head's too big. But if you don't look closely, I have kind of that sinewy, almost like cat-like body. And when I did the cocaine, all of
Sure.
a sudden I had abs, and I was very vascular. And
This is like 20s, 20
yeah,
years old
yeah.
somewhere.
And I felt
Yeah.
like I looked good, and the chemical confidence opened a lot of doors. And I was making music at that time, and I was able to let go of my fear of not being a piece of shit, and
And it
started to create some pretty good music. So the drugs they'll give you a little bit in the beginning, they'll,
because at that point there wasn't really any type of routine structure life at all for the drugs to conflict with. So it was all up and up. It wasn't like you were staying up getting high, and because of that you were late for things you had going on.
No.
It was just, now you were living kind of the normal life of being somewhat homeless, couch surfing, and just fucking off with people all day. But now it was without the emotional turmoil because you were aided by these chemicals. Yeah.
The chemicals allowed me to cheat. The chemicals allowed me to wind up in weird situations and justify them.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I mean, you know, we were going to raves and we were doing club drugs, and there was a very hedonistic, decadent, almost like Sodom and Gomorrah period of my life where,
Yeah.
you know, there were no boundaries and there were no rules. And I could rationalize, minimalize, or justify just about anything because I was completely out of my fucking mind and mentally ill and taking massive, massive amounts of drugs. So
Yeah.
there's no
And did that?
responsibility there. There's no accountability there.
Yeah. And that's a whole lot of fucking fun. Hakuna Matata, baby, right?
I mean,
And
in the
then
beginning, yeah, in the beginning, and as temptation always comes in your favorite designers, right?
oh yeah, it's funny. Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
don't you don't temptation if you like you know what happens as a man. When you're a man, you're pretty much invisible if you're over the age of 30, right?
Sure.
But get yourself a girlfriend that you really really love, that really loves
Sure.
you. And what's the first thing that happens? The hottest women who wouldn't have taken a piss on you if you were on fire in the middle of the street come out of nowhere and pursue you and start sliding into
Yeah.
your DMs. And that's how temptation comes. It's not some 400-pound woman that, you know, wants to sit on my face. It's some hot model from South Beach, Miami that's like, we should hang out. I'm like,
Yeah.
where were you a year ago when I couldn't get a date to save my life?
Yeah. The drugs the drugs made it all better, right? For a period of time. It was
Period of
like,
time.
okay, phew, I'm doing good, man. I'm hanging with my boys. I'm actually making some pretty good tunes.
Yes.
You know, I don't feel that crippling panic. I feel at ease. I even feel like the fucking man when I do some blow.
Yeah.
Like life is good here. And then it seems like once the heroin enters the picture, it becomes different. Like the way you describe it in the book, it's like, you know, that like illusion of control, it kind of was okay, but once the heroin entered the picture, then it was like I started to sense that disappearing. Like I think
It
you
was
were,
the heroin
I think,
and the cocaine. The cocaine had a very evil, sinister nature to it. And in the beginning, when you're doing cocaine, you feel like you finally arrived and you're in with the in
yeah,
crowd. And the same thing with the heroin. All of a sudden, I'm hanging out with people that I used to go buy tickets to go see their concerts. Now I'm hanging out next to them on the sofa and we're smoking some tar. Here's the guy that was in my favorite movie when I was 16. And now we're smoking some rocks together and he's calling it freebase when in reality it was crack. They both
yeah.
had this insidious evil nature to them. And then one day it was just like the rug got pulled out from under my feet and I got hijacked.
You smoked crack on accident for the first time,
Yes, I was told it was base. That's what the guy said.
and you're like, I don't know what bass is, but I'll hit it because I'm with it, man. I'm cool. I'm hanging out with you guys. Let's do
Super
it.
famous actor, bunch of girls sitting outside at a nightclub, and you want a bass hit? Like, of course I do. I want to do anything this guy's doing. You know,
Yeah.
he's famous and he's sitting with 9 hot women. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
9 hours later, I'm crawling around on his floor trying to find
Looking for it.
fucking pieces of lint to put in the crack pipe. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's disgusting.
Describe that feeling.
Oh,
What does it feel like to smoke crack?
like you're like in the beginning, like you could go walk on to the Lakers and play whatever position you want, or you could go walk on to any movie set and get the starring role. Like that's literally what your head is telling you. Your dopamine and serotonin levels are so unnaturally skyrocketed that you think that you're like godlike.
So, like, I've done a lot of cocaine, but I've never smoked crack. How would you compare it in a ratio of sorts? Of like crack is X amount of times stronger than the euphoria of doing lots of blow.
Cocaine would be like if you went to an amusement park and you're in the bumper cars and you're having the time of your life with your friend. Crack is going down that first hill of the roller coaster.
Wow.
Yeah. Crack
So
is way more intense, 20 times more intense.
that at that point, does it become different, bro? Like you start thinking like first it was relief from your emotional pain, and then it becomes this dragon chase where you're like, what the fuck was that? I just like that crack just sent me for the loop. Like I got to get some more of that. It was like no longer about escapism and or escaping what you felt and more about getting that again.
Yeah, all of it, all of that stuff. I just wanted more. I just went, the first time I tried heroin, I literally said to the guy, like, how can I buy this in bulk and how can I get it cheaper? I was always, I was always industrious and always a little bit of an entrepreneur. And I'm not.
You're like Kevin O'Leary shooting heroin for the first time, saying, "How can we get some more of this?" I'm in.
I loved it. I loved not feeling anxious. I loved not feeling like a piece of shit. I loved feeling like I was 6'2" with blonde hair and blue eyes instead of 5'7", and with whatever I got. Like it made me feel like really, really special. But it's the darkness. It's the absence of God. It's the absence of light. It's a great lie. It's disgusting. It's insidious. It's very bad. It's bad energy. It's bad for the world. The way that it's manufactured is bad. The way that it's transported, it's costing people's lives. The way that it comes into this country, people are being beheaded. People are being executed in front of their families. People are going to prison. Everything about drugs is bad. And I'm not talking about using MDMA for vets for PTSD. I'm not talking about mushrooms. I'm not talking about the stuff that can be used for the greater good. I'm talking about
in a responsible setting like therapeutic and stuff.
Yeah, I'm talking about the dark shit. Like opioids have a place. Like if we have to get a limb cut off or we break a leg, then we need some opioids. But taking them for any other reason, man, for a sustained period of time, it just takes your fucking life.
Do you mind if I ask a couple questions based on just curiosity about these drugs, about
I don't mind at
the
all.
feelings and things? Yeah. So what age are we when we smoke crack?
27, 28.
Cool. 27, 28. We were smoking heroin at that point, yeah? Okay, so we were smoking heroin a couple years, right? Hadn't started injecting yet, and we're starting crack. This is where things start to swap. It starts to get different, right? When you do heroin for the first time, one thing I thought was interesting, man, is like, you describe the different drugs as you took them. Like I've told a couple friends this, like, this is crazy. Like this guy describes, I drink and I feel, safe and I feel invincible almost. I feel fucking, let's go. I'm rocking. I do MDMA and I feel like this amazing merging of my senses and this openingness of boundaries and this euphoria that I'd never felt before. It was amazing. And then I do heroin. I smoke heroin, and this hits like 1,000 times stronger than the best MDMA I've ever done. And then you talk about that guy that was a former junkie. You met him. You met him.
Yeah. There's no Christmas for junkies guy.
That's right. There's no Christmas junkies. Yeah. it's a cool line, man. And you go to his house and say, I'm going to shoot up. I think something with your girlfriend had going on. And then you shoot up. And right when that thing starts to push into your vein, you said there's no drug could touch this feeling.
No, that's Godhead. That's the ultimate high. That's the illusion that God is wrapping his arms around you and holding you and loving you. And that's why it's so insidious. And that's why it's so dark and evil. It's because it's not God wrapping his arms around you. It's actually the opposite. And there is a spiritual component to all of this stuff. And
yeah, with a disguise, right? It's like it's the devil,
great deceiver,
but it comes with a big hug and says, "Come on in, let me hold you. I'll give you some of that good love you need so deeply. Doesn't it feel so good? And then now continue to follow me." Yeah.
It's dark, man. It's bad. It's bad shit. Everything about it's bad. I'm so grateful by the grace of God that I've been away from I've been free from active addiction for over 20 years now. And I'm so happy to be away from all that. And, when people are fucked up, when people are kind of fucked up, they clean up and they kind of have a good life. In my experience, when people are really, really fucked up, really going through some tough shit, whether it's drugs, alcohol, gambling, whatever it is, infidelity, when you turn yourself around, you head in the other direction, success comes to you in a very profound way. And I don't know why. I have no idea.
When you're really fucked up, when you're coming from rock bottom.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, it seems like more doors open. It seems like you get this fearlessness about you. It's almost like addiction becomes this superpower where,
There's like you ever heard that Regents Beta paradox, which is you'd be better off if you were in a worse situation. Like if your financial situation was a little worse, you'd actually get up and do something about it. If you were in a little bit worse health, like I just talked to a guy who walks in the gym today
yeah,
to sign up for a personal trainer, and it's because he finally had a heart attack.
yeah,
So maybe it's that sense that like you've already hit the fucking bottom, and so now you're like, I know what it's like. I'm not living in this illusion that I could fuck around and waste my time in life, and you're clear. You have wisdom.
I don't
at that
sit around
point.
and wonder if I could smoke weed and drink wine with dinner. Like, I went as low as you can go. And to be honest, man, I probably could smoke weed or I probably could drink wine with dinner. But what if I'm wrong?
That's right. Yeah. What if I'm wrong,
What if
man? I
I'm
hope you
wrong?
never test that
What if that's
hypothesis.
just the
Yeah.
ego, telling me that, or dark forces telling me that? Like, I just
You,
don't.
you know,
I'm so happy that I bottomed out as hard as I did.
Khalil, some people might listen to you say, or us discuss going down a roller coaster, the rush of smoking crack or shooting up heroin, and it's the absolute most highest form, not the most highest form, but it masquerades as this highest form of bliss and love, and go, that sounds great. You know what? Thanks for that. And they're going to hop on the podcast, and I'm going to go try it. Let's flip it on its head, and let's talk about when the darkness starts to set in. Can you share with me and the listeners like one or two of the darkest, horrible stories of where that lie led you?
Letting men fucking jack off on me for drug money, letting homeless crack dealers jack off on me, sleeping with old ladies so I can get a fix, like lying to people over and over again, burning every bridge that's ever been burned. There is nothing good about any of that. It's a great lie. It's a great deceit. It's
And it's
it'll destroy your life.
yeah, as it did. I mean, if you're listening to this and you haven't read the book, I Forgot to Die. It's an incredible book. I think what's really incredible is it's helped me out so much in my own personal life, Khalil, is struggling with sex addiction and porn addiction.
Yeah.
Because it illustrates not just for drug addicts, it illustrates anyone who's trying to negotiate a relationship with something and thinking that they can control how far they take this,
I was
and it
just gonna
doesn't.
say, I said I was having a man talk that, if taken out of context, would sound horrible. But I was talking to a veteran who's seen a lot of action and has quite a bit of suicidal ideation. And I use gallows humor because I learned how to use gallows humor in 12-step programs. Gallows humor
What's
is
that?
wildly inappropriate humor, the type of shit that you're not supposed to say, but you say it. It's funnier than just about any type of humor there is, because it's the shit that you're not supposed to say. And
It's unexpected.
I was using some gallows humor to sort of lighten the early morning, rough moment that he was going through. And I said, I'll probably see you later. I'll go walk on the treadmill and then look over at the girl on the rowing machine who is bipolar and, and medicated for schizophrenia. I'll have a couple of moments where I think about having an affair with her, which would then lead to me coming home to a rabbit boiling on my stove. I'm not sure if you get that reference. You're probably too young
I
for that
don't.
reference. So there was a movie in the 80s where this really good looking guy had this really hot wife and he had this perfect life, and this woman tempted him into an affair, and he was like, what's the big deal? It's skin on skin. And he went and he had the affair, and then the woman literally came and like took his fucking life over and would like break into his house and leave a dead rabbit boiling in a pot on his
Oof.
stove, and then
Yeah.
I think like kidnapped his wife, and like it just, like, whether it's heroin or crack or porn or cheating or gambling, it's all the same shit. It's the darkness. It's the absence of light. And
Describe that.
it,
What do you mean?
so the light is our creator, and the darkness, some people would call the devil, or they would say it's the absence of light, the absence of our creator. It's the opposite.
Yeah.
And That's the porn, the gambling, the cheating, the lying, the fucking people over, the gossiping, the slandering. It's all kinds of different degrees of darkness or absence of light. And then there's the being kind and being courteous and being generous and being loving and being faithful and having humility. And that would be going towards the light. And
Yeah.
in my experience, the more you go towards the light, the better your life becomes. You're still going to have
Mm.
bad shit happen. That's just life. Legs going to break, parents are going to die, you're going to get sick here and there, you're going to get old, you're going to get some aches and some pains. But my experience is also, if you fuck with that darkness, as alluring as it might seem, sooner or later it sucks you in and it's got a hold of you. And
And
just like when you're getting fucked by an 800-pound gorilla, when does that gorilla stop fucking you? When it decides to stop fucking you, not when you want it to
yeah.
stop fucking you.
And as you said earlier, that darkness, we think we can look at bad shit and be like, oh, I'm not going to get in a life of despair and guilt and shame and disgust and being impoverished. It doesn't impoverish. It doesn't come like that. It comes, like you said earlier,
And your favorite
dressed in this.
designer brands.
Yeah. You almost have to be a little bit skeptical of things that feel too good.
Of course you do. Of course you do. And you also know in each day we're going to be given opportunities to take the high road and the low road. You take the low road long enough, you drive right off the fucking freeway of life. You take the high
So
road
is
long
that
enough, you begin to build integrity of character and doors begin to open and your life begins to get awesome. Give me
is that what kills
give me
people?
1 second. Sorry, I got to pee real quick. Can I?
Yeah, I'll do the same thing. See you in a second. Good for maybe 15 more minutes. You got time?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for my PT to show up. So she'll be walking in a
Cool.
second. You'll see my attention get diverted.
Cool. Awesome, man. I'd love to talk about the spiritual component of this. This has piqued my interest, the darkness aspect of it. Let's talk about that. So there's darkness and there's light. There's things that trip you up that masquerade as light. Or they shortcut, or they're a cheat code of sorts. That this is. Because someone told you this isn't what you should do. You shouldn't be at the gambling table, or you shouldn't be watching pornography while your partner's in bed. You shouldn't be doing drugs. You shouldn't, but you haven't found out for yourself yet why. But this thing feels so good. It feels like lightness. It feels like power. It feels like love. But then it begins to strip you of it. The darkness aspect of it, the darkness thing is interesting to me. Does it kill you eventually? Is that what darkness does? It just kills you?
I don't think we're that lucky. I don't think there is any killing. I wholeheartedly believe there is no beginning and there is no end. We've been doing this forever and we will do this forever. I can't articulate it any better than that because I don't understand it any better than that. But I believe that the concept of purgatory is very real. I've lived in it. The absence of light is a wilderness of pain, and being at one with my creator, although I struggle on a daily basis to do so, but having the humility to get up in the morning and get into an attitude of gratitude by doing a walking gratitude list and saying out loud while it's still dark outside, thank you, God, for this day. Thank you, God, for the roof over my head. Thank you, God, for the clean water that I get to bathe in. Getting into that attitude of gratitude and getting closer to my creator, our creator, because it's all the same thing. That's the
Yeah.
light. And I want to live in that light.
And that morning gratitude, that is you trying to align yourself with light.
Yeah. A line, a busboy bringing me bread when I ask for water and
Mm.
me smiling and saying thank you instead of me going, I asked for bread, right? That's the absence of light. The light
Yeah.
is realizing that this is a human being doing the best that they can. You think this guy really wants to be a fucking busboy? The answer is probably no. Nobody dreams of being a busboy. Nobody dreams of being a meter maid. Nobody dreams of working at the DMV. So who am I going to be when I interact with those people and you're not looking? Who am I going to be?
Yeah.
That's where I will be measured in terms of how much I'm living in the light and how much I'm living in the darkness. Because I see people who present themselves really well and have all kinds of money, and then you put them in a situation like that, and they're fucking, they're 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 like being nasty to the busboy, or you see somebody flipping out on the parking attendant who's writing them a ticket. I just fucking and you're like what are you doing?
Why do people get like that?
Yeah, this person's doing their fucking job. And it doesn't matter if you just parked there for 30 seconds or not. If you're going to pull in front of a parking meter, whether you're going to be gone for 3 hours or for 3 seconds, you run the risk of getting that ticket. And if you didn't put money in that thing, or the time has ran out because you were being absent-minded, and I'm speaking to myself, not you.
Yeah.
When that person gives me that ticket, my job is to recognize that it's another human being doing the best that they can and simply smile at them. Not smile at them because I think I'm going to get out of the ticket, although I have gotten out of some tickets, not after they printed up, but sometimes I'll walk up and just say, good afternoon. And they'll just look at me and they'll see me smiling and they'll literally go, you know what, man, this is your lucky day. And that doesn't always happen, but it happens sometimes. I got pulled over right before I left LA. I was flying to the gold place, California Numismatics Metals, and I was going 80 miles an hour, and I came off the 10, and I'm coming onto the 405, and I literally crossed 5 lanes of traffic to get into the whatever lane. And I shit you not, the moment that I did, and I went over the yellow lines, I didn't go into the lane legally. I went into the carpool lane illegally. The moment I did, the lights went on behind me.
Yeah.
And I just fucking, went back over because they won't pull you over there. You got to go all the way back over. And I stopped, and the cop got out of his car. Highway patrolman got out of his car, and I got my registration out. I put it in the middle console. I turned my car off. I put my keys on the dashboard. I put my hands at, is it 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock or whatever the saying is? I put my hands like that, and I had my windows down. And I said to my girlfriend, like, this is going to be one hell of a ticket. And she's like, why? Like, because it's a highway patrol, and these guys never fucking let you off.
They don't play.
This guy comes up to the window, and he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I said,
oh, yeah.
yes, officer. I just crossed over 5 lanes of traffic. I was speeding, and I illegally entered into the car. And he's like, what the fuck's wrong with you, man? I am so sorry. I was in a big hurry. He goes, we're all in a big hurry. And I said, officer, you're absolutely right. I sincerely apologize. And he's like, let me see that registration. He took the registration. He got halfway back to his car, and I'm watching him in the rearview mirror, and he's shaking his head, and he stops, and he turns back around, and he walks up to the car, hands me my registration. He goes, get the fuck out of here, man. And I'm like, nice. Thank you, officer. So
nice.
Don't be of the light because you're going to get out of parking tickets and speeding tickets. Be of the light because we're all part of the same thing. We're all part of that source that is the light. And the harder that we work to be aligned with that light, the better our lives are going to be, and the better our lives around us, those who we love and those who we engage with, the better their lives are going to be.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story, man. There seems to be a flip of responsibility that I pick up from a lot of people's stories, yours too, where you're getting back at what life has dealt you. And a lot of people, that's the human experience. We get fucked over, shit happens, we're pissed, we begin to resent life, and then we're entitled, we have a chip on our shoulder because life hasn't handed us this amazing, orgasmic, money-filled, pleasure, endless kaleidoscope experience, and so we just get angry all the time. At some point for you, Khalil, was it maybe rock bottom? At some point did you go like, the pain in my life is mine to care for. I have to begin the process of taking care of that.
Yeah.
That's a responsibility I have as a human.
Yeah, my mom got sick. My mom got cancer. I was 8 months sober. I was still homeless, living in this guy's guest house. And I couldn't go back and visit her. I couldn't send her money. I couldn't do anything. And, my mom wasn't a great mom. My mom didn't love me. My mom didn't protect me. But I went home that night and I realized that I had become an absolute piece of shit by my own doing. Had nothing to do with her, had nothing to do with anybody. I was living my life like a piece of shit, and I couldn't take care of my mother who carried me within her belly. And I cried all night, and I made a vow with myself and I made a vow with God that I was going to be rich, and that I was going to be successful, and that I was going to take care of people that were in my life. Someday that would be a girlfriend, maybe a wife, definitely my mother. And something very interesting happened over the next 17 years. I was able to spoil the shit out of that mom that didn't love me and didn't care for me and didn't protect me. And bought her a house and, sent her on vacations. And it's a great cosmic joke that I gave my mom the love that I so desperately needed from her that she didn't give to me. And all of a sudden I was free.
Yeah. Wow, man. That's beautiful, brother. That's beautiful, man. I don't know what it was that allowed, maybe it's just your time, but something allowed you to have the strength to be able to hold that epiphany of saying, like, it's all on me. It's all my fault. I'm the one holding on so desperately to this pain. And the fact that you looked at it in the face and you said, never again. Like, I'm going to own this. I'm going to bring love to my own pain. And then as I heal myself, I'm going to love those around me.
Well,
That's awesome. Dude.
Look, I found it out by accident. And I also sort of remember watching PBS when I was a kid and being kind of fascinated with Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey. I watched that as a kid over and over again. I didn't realize it till I was about a little bit more than halfway through my own personal journey that I was actually living the hero's journey, that what I was doing was working my ass off to become the hero in my own story. And I realized that I was the author of my story and that everyone is the author of their story. So taking sovereignty over yourself and taking responsibility for everything going on in your life is actually quite a selfish act. But the joke is, or the punchline is, when you become selfish and you take sovereignty over yourself and you stop blaming everybody else and you look inward, you're then able to spoil the shit out of your friends, out of your girlfriend, buy a beautiful home, buy a beautiful car, get nice things. If watches are your thing or necklaces are your thing, little reminders to the little boy inside of you that you're doing good and that God has your back and that life is beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
That's incredible.
I locked
Go
her
for
out. I just told her to come in and I locked her out.
Yeah, you good.
I'm in trouble. Come on in.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
man,
that's Dr. Alexis, by the way. If you're ever in Austin, Texas, and you need the greatest physical therapist that's actually a doctor, she didn't just take some weekend course. If you're ever here, you need to experience the magic of her healing.
I hear you, man. Hey, dude, thank you so much, man, for just hanging out with me, brother. I sincerely enjoyed just chat with you, man, and thank you so much.
My pleasure. We'll do it again, brother.
Yes, please do. I hope everything goes well. I hope that key gets fixed at your location in Miami.
They got a locksmith out immediately. They got the store open, and I'm putting the salt and pepper shaker back in the middle of the table as we speak.
That's right, man. Well, look, I know this episode will remind everyone that we're all part of the same source and that our role in life is to stay alert from the things that masquerade as light, that have darkness behind them and threaten to ruin our lives. And I genuinely know that the stories you shared, the conversation we've had is going to be a great reminder for people listening. So, again, thank you from the bottom of my heart, brother.
If a dummy like me can succeed against all odds by seeking God first above all else and loving my neighbor as I love myself, then anybody out there, because I'm going to guess that all of your listeners are smarter than me, taller than me, younger than me, more educated than me, and have all kinds of resources that I didn't have. The only thing that they might be missing, and I'm guessing, is just putting God first and seeking God above all else and loving their neighbors they love themselves. Watch the miracles happen in your life if you engage in that practice on a daily basis, one day at a time, 1% better each day.